The transport ship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Korath Prime, and Maya Chen gripped her seat so hard her knuckles turned white. Around her sat the most dangerous young beings in the galaxy. There were Vorkath warriors with muscles like steel cables and skin that could stop a plasma bolt. There were silken assassins whose bodies could bend in ways that defied physics. There were Draconith fire-breathers whose internal temperature could melt through ship hulls. And then there was Maya, a 17-year-old human girl from Earth who weighed 52 kilograms and had never thrown a punch in her life. She was not supposed to be here. Nobody from Earth had ever been accepted into the Obsidian Academy. Nobody from Earth had ever even applied. The Academy was the most lethal training institution in the known universe, producing warriors and agents who shaped the fate of entire star systems. The entrance exam alone had a 40% fatality rate. The graduation rate was less than 12%, and those who did graduate became legends. Maya had gotten in by accident. 3 months ago, she had been a junior systems analyst at the New Geneva Space Authority, the most boring job imaginable. Her entire job was to check data logs from automated probes and flag anything unusual. Day after day, she stared at numbers on a screen. Then one night, working late because she had nothing better to do with her life, she found something strange in the probe data from the outer rim. The numbers did not make sense. There was a pattern hidden in the noise, something that looked almost like a message. Maya had always been good with patterns. Her teachers back in school called it a gift. She called it a curse because it made her notice every tiny thing that was wrong, every small detail that did not fit. It kept her awake at night sometimes, her brain refusing to stop analyzing. She worked on the pattern for 3 weeks without telling anyone. It was just a puzzle to solve, something to make her boring job less boring. When she finally cracked it, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The pattern was a countdown, and it was counting down to a massive attack on the Galactic Council headquarters. Maya had no idea what to do. She was nobody. She worked in a basement office that smelled like recycled air and disappointment. She had no connections, no power, no way to make anyone listen to her. So she did the only thing she could think of. She hacked into the Galactic Council's communication network and sent them a warning directly. She did not know that the communication network was supposedly unhackable. She did not know that the greatest cybersecurity experts in the galaxy had spent decades building its defenses. She just saw a problem and solved it, the same way she always solved problems. One step at a time, following the patterns until they led her where she needed to go. The warning reached the Council 6 hours before the attack. They evacuated the headquarters. When the bombs went off, killing would have killed 30,000 beings. The building was empty. Maya had saved them all. What happened next was a blur. Investigators traced the warning back to her. Suddenly, her basement office was full of aliens in official uniforms asking questions she did not know how to answer. How did you break through our security? I just looked for patterns in the code until I found a path. How did you decode the attack signal? I noticed the numbers did not fit the normal distribution curve. Who trained you? Nobody trained me. I just figured it out. The investigators did not believe her at first. They thought she must be part of some elaborate conspiracy, a human agent working for a powerful faction. They interrogated her for weeks. They scanned her brain, analyzed her DNA, ran every test they could think of. Finally, they accepted the truth. Maya Chen was exactly what she appeared to be, an ordinary human with an extraordinary mind for patterns. That was when the offer came. Not an offer, really. More like a statement of fact delivered by a Vorkath general whose scars told stories of 100 battles. You have been selected for the Obsidian Academy, he said. Transport leaves in 3 days. I did not apply, Maya said. That is irrelevant. The Academy has selected you. This is not a request. I am not a warrior. I am not an assassin. I am a data analyst. I sit at a desk and look at numbers. The general's scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile. The Academy does not care what you are. It cares what you might become. You have a gift. You will learn to use it, or you will die trying. Maya wanted to refuse. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was insane. She was not built for combat. She was not brave. She got nervous ordering food at restaurants. The thought of going to a school where students routinely killed each other was absolutely terrifying. But then she thought about her life, her tiny apartment, her boring job, the endless gray days stretching out before her until she died of old age having never done anything that mattered. She had spent 17 years being invisible, unremarkable, forgettable. For one brief moment, she had been someone who changed the fate of the galaxy. She wanted to feel that way again. Okay, she said, I will go. Now, sitting on the transport ship as it descended toward Korath Prime, she was absolutely certain she had made a terrible mistake. The Vorkath warrior across from her was cleaning his claws, each one longer than her entire hand. The silken assassin beside him was doing something impossible with her spine, bending backward until her head touched her heels. A Draconith in the corner was literally breathing small flames, probably just to show off. And they were all looking at Maya like she was a bug they might crush for entertainment. The ship landed with a bone-rattling thud. The doors opened, and hot air rushed in, carrying the smell of sulfur and something else Maya could not identify. Blood, maybe. She really hoped it was not blood. A voice boomed across the landing pad. Welcome to the Obsidian Academy. You have been selected because you show potential. That potential means nothing here. You are nothing here. You will prove your worth or you will be eliminated. There is no third option. The speaker was massive, even by alien standards. Commander Thrace, Maya remembered from the briefing documents. She was a hybrid, part Vorkath, part something else that nobody had ever been able to identify. Her body was covered in natural armor plates, and her eyes glowed with an inner fire that suggested she could kill everyone present without breaking a sweat. Move to the processing center, Commander Thrace ordered. Now. The other students moved quickly, eagerly, their predator instincts responding to authority. Maya stumbled after them, her human legs clumsy compared to their natural grace. She could feel their contempt like a physical weight on her shoulders. The processing center was a massive hall filled with scanning equipment and evaluation stations. Each student was assigned a number. Maya was given the number 247. There were 300 students in this year's intake. By the end of the first week, the instructors said that number would be cut in half. The first evaluation was physical. Students were herded into an arena and ordered to complete an obstacle course while being shot at with stun weapons. Maya watched the other students go before her. The Vorkath warriors powered through the obstacles like tanks, their natural armor shrugging off most of the stun blasts. The silken assassins flowed like water, dodging and weaving with inhuman flexibility. The Draconith used their fire breath to destroy the automated turrets before they could even fire. Then it was Maya's turn. She stepped into the arena and immediately took a stun blast to the chest. The pain was incredible, like every nerve in her body had caught fire at once. She went down hard, gasping, her vision blurring. The watching students laughed. Maya forced herself to stand. Her legs shook, her hands trembled, but she stood. She looked at the obstacle course in front of her. Walls to climb, gaps to jump, platforms that moved and shifted unpredictably. And everywhere, automated turrets tracking her movement, ready to fire. She could not outrun the turrets. She could not outmuscle the obstacles. She could not do anything the other students had done. But she could see patterns. Even now, with pain still echoing through her body, she could see the way the turrets moved, the rhythm of their tracking algorithms, the slight delays between target acquisition and firing. Maya started moving, not fast, not gracefully, but deliberately. She took 3 steps left, then paused. A stun blast passed through the space she would have occupied if she had kept moving. She took 2 steps forward, then ducked. Another blast passed over her head. The watching students stopped laughing. Maya continued through the course, step by careful step. She was not elegant. She fell twice, scraped her knees, bruised her shoulder on a wall she did not climb so much as awkwardly scramble over. But she did not get hit again. Every time a turret fired, she was not where it expected her to be. Every time a platform shifted, she had already accounted for the movement. It took her 4 times longer than any other student to complete the course. Her time was by far the worst, but she finished with only 1 hit, which was better than half the students who had gone before her. Commander Thrace was waiting at the end of the course. Her glowing eyes studied Maya with unsettling intensity. "Human," she said, "how did you avoid the targeting systems?" "I watched the patterns," Maya said, still breathing hard. "The turrets have a predictable tracking algorithm. There is a 0.4-second delay between when they acquire a target and when they fire, and they always predict linear movement, so if you change direction during that delay window, they miss." Commander Thrace was silent for a long moment. Then she made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Interesting, very interesting." She walked away without another word. Maya had no idea if that was good or bad. The dormitory assignments were posted that evening. Students were housed in units of 10, and Maya found herself assigned to Unit 27. When she arrived at the dormitory, she discovered that her unit mates were not happy about having a human among them. "This must be a mistake," said a Vorkath warrior named Crix. He was young by Vorkath standards, which meant he was only 8 feet tall instead of 9. Humans do not belong at the academy. Humans are prey. Maybe she is here as a training dummy, suggested a silken assassin named Whisper. Her voice was exactly like her name, so quiet Maya had to strain to hear it. Something for us to practice killing. I am here because I was selected, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. Same as everyone else. Crix moved toward her, his massive body blocking out the light. You do not belong here, little human. You are weak, soft, breakable. The academy will destroy you. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Every instinct told her to run, to hide, to get as far away from these predators as possible. But she had learned something important a long time ago. Running from bullies only made them chase you faster. Maybe, she said, but I am still here, and until the academy destroys me, I am your unit mate. So you can either waste energy trying to intimidate me, or you can accept reality and focus on surviving. Crix stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a deep rumbling sound that shook the floor. The human has spirit. I will enjoy watching you die, little one. He walked away, and Maya let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. That had been terrifying, but she had stood her ground. It was a small victory, but she would take what she could get. The first real class started the next morning. Combat Fundamentals, taught by an instructor named Sergeant Vex. She was a veteran of the border wars, missing one arm and one eye, but still more dangerous than anyone Maya had ever met. You are here to learn how to kill, Sergeant Vex announced. Most of you already know the basics. You have claws or fire breath or natural weapons of some kind. Good. That will help you survive the first few weeks. But the Academy does not produce simple killers. We produce artists, masters of death in all its forms. She pointed at the training dummies arranged around the room. Today you will show me what you already know. Attack the dummies. Do not hold back. The other students went first. Maya watched them carefully, analyzing their movements the way she had analyzed data patterns back on Earth. Crix fought like a bulldozer, all overwhelming power and no finesse. Whisper was the opposite, all speed and precision, her body moving in ways that seemed to violate the laws of physics. A Draconith named Scorch combined fire breath with physical attacks, turning himself into a walking inferno. Then it was Maya's turn. She walked up to the training dummy and stared at it. She had never been in a fight in her life. She had never even taken a self-defense class. She had absolutely no idea what to do. So she did the only thing she could think of. She punched the dummy as hard as she could. Pain exploded through her hand. She heard something crack and very much hoped it was the dummy and not her bones. The dummy wobbled slightly. That was it. It did not fall. It did not even seem particularly affected. The other students burst into laughter. Pathetic, Sergeant Vex said, but there was something in her eye that looked almost like curiosity. Your physical abilities are virtually non-existent. You have no natural weapons. Your body is fragile and slow. By every measure, you should not be here. I know, Maya said, cradling her injured hand. And yet you are here, which means either someone made a very big mistake or you have something that we cannot see yet. Sergeant Vex studied her. Tell me, human, when you were watching the other students fight, what did you notice? Maya hesitated. I noticed patterns. Crix always drops his left shoulder before he strikes. Whisper has a tell in her eyes before she changes direction. Scorch takes exactly 2 seconds to build up enough fire for his breath attack. The room went silent. The other students were staring at her now, and their expressions had changed from contempt to something else. Wariness, maybe, or concern. Sergeant Vex smiled. It was not a nice smile. Very good, human. You see what others do not. That is a weapon, though not the kind you are used to. We will find a way to use it, assuming you survive long enough. The first week at the academy was hell. Maya was slower than everyone else, weaker than everyone else, worse at every physical task than everyone else. She came last in every training exercise. She was bruised and battered constantly. Her body hurt in places she did not know could hurt. But she survived. That was the important thing, she survived. She survived by watching and learning. She memorized every instructor's habits, every training pattern, every unwritten rule of the academy. She learned which paths to take between buildings to avoid the most dangerous students. She learned which dining hall tables were claimed by which factions, and where an unaffiliated human could sit without causing offense. She learned how to make herself small and unnoticeable when the predators were hunting. She also learned things the academy did not intend to teach her. She learned that beneath all the talk of glory and combat excellence, the students were scared. They were far from home, surrounded by potential enemies, facing constant danger. They built walls of arrogance and aggression to hide their fear, but the fear was still there. Maya could see it in their patterns. She started using that knowledge. Small things at first. Warning a Silken student that an ambush was planned in Corridor 7. Telling a Draconith that one of his rivals was cheating in target practice. Nothing major. Nothing that would draw attention. Just small acts of usefulness that slowly, gradually made people see her as something other than easy prey. By the end of the second week, something had changed. Maya was still last in every physical competition. She was still the weakest student in her unit, but people had stopped trying to hurt her for fun. A few even nodded to her in the hallways, tiny gestures of acknowledgement that meant more than they should have. Whisper, the Silken assassin from her unit, approached her one evening. "You are strange, human." "Thank you," Maya said, not sure if it was a compliment. "You should be dead by now. Everyone expected you to be dead by now, but you are still here." "I am stubborn." Whisper made a sound that might have been laughter. "Stubbornness is not enough to survive the academy. You have something else. I have been watching you. You see things before they happen." "I see patterns," Maya said. "That is all. I notice the small details that add up to bigger things." "That is not all." Whisper's pale eyes studied her. "Yesterday in combat training you told me about the tell in my eyes. I have had the tell my whole life. Thousands of opponents have faced me and none of them ever noticed it. You noticed it after watching me for 5 minutes." Maya did not know what to say to that. "You are going to be interesting, human," Whisper said. "I hope you survive the culling." She slid away before Maya could ask what the culling was. Maya found out the next morning. Commander Thrace assembled all surviving students in the main arena and announced that the first phase of training was complete. 260 students remained from the original 300. Now it was time for the culling. "The culling is simple," Commander Thrace said. "You will be divided into teams of 5. Each team will be sent into the maze. Your objective is to reach the center of the maze and retrieve a token. Only teams that retrieve a token will continue in the academy. There are 15 tokens. There are 52 teams. Do the math." Maya did the math. It was not encouraging. "The maze is dangerous," Commander Thrace continued. "It contains traps, obstacles, and other challenges designed to test your abilities. Some of you will die. This is expected. This is the purpose of the culling, to separate those who are worthy from those who are not." The team assignments were posted. Maya was assigned to Team 47. Her teammates were Crix the Vorkath, Whisper the Silken, a small nebulan named Drift who could manipulate gravity, and a crystalline named Shard whose body was made of living stone. None of them looked happy to have a human on their team. "This is your fault," Crix growled at her. "If we fail the culling because you slow us down, I will kill you myself." "That seems counterproductive," Maya said. "Maybe we should focus on working together instead of threatening each other." "The human has a point," Whisper said quietly. "We cannot change our team assignment. We can only work with what we have." Shard, the crystalline, made a grinding sound that Maya interpreted as reluctant agreement. Drift just stared at her with his enormous black eyes and said nothing. They had 12 hours to prepare before the culling began. Maya spent those hours learning everything she could about her teammates. She watched how they moved, how they fought, how they reacted to stress. She identified their strengths and weaknesses, their habits and preferences. She built a mental map of who they were and how they worked. By the time they entered the maze, she knew more about her team than they knew about themselves. The maze was enormous, a shifting labyrinth of corridors and chambers that covered several square kilometers. The walls moved constantly, reconfiguring themselves to create new paths and dead ends. Traps were everywhere. Stun turrets like the ones in the obstacle course. Pressure plates that triggered energy barriers. Sections of floor that could give way without warning. Other teams were in the maze too, and they were not allies. Everyone was competing for the same 15 tokens. Alliances might form temporarily, but ultimately only the successful teams would survive. "We should move fast," Crix said. "Reach the center before the others." "That is what every other team is thinking," Maya said. "They will rush toward the center and get bottlenecked at the choke points. There will be fighting, and the strongest teams will slow each other down while the weaker teams get eliminated." "Then what do you suggest, human?" Maya had been studying the maze's structure from the limited information available. She had noticed patterns in how the walls moved, rhythms in the reconfiguration cycles. The maze is not random. It follows a pattern. If we can predict the pattern, we can find a faster route that the others will miss. Crix looked skeptical. Whisper looked intrigued. Drift tilted his head in what might have been curiosity. Shard just stood there, patient as stone. "Show us," Whisper said. Maya led them through the maze. It was terrifying. Every corner could hide a trap or an enemy team. Every shifting wall could crush them or separate them. But Maya watched the patterns, tracked the rhythms, anticipated the changes before they happened. 3 times, she stopped the team from walking into traps that would have disabled or killed them. Twice, she found shortcuts that appeared only briefly as the walls reconfigured. Once she led them away from a confrontation with 2 other teams that would have resulted in a bloody battle with no clear winner. Her teammates started looking at her differently, not with respect exactly, but with something that was not contempt. They reached the center of the maze faster than anyone expected. There were still tokens remaining, glowing crystals arranged on pedestals in a circular chamber. But there were also 3 other teams already there, fighting viciously over the prizes. "We fight," Crix said, flexing his claws. "Wait," Maya said. She was watching the battle, analyzing the patterns. "Look at the teams. They are all focused on each other. None of them are watching the perimeter. So we do not need to fight all of them. We just need to get 1 token." Maya pointed to the far side of the chamber, where a single token sat unguarded while the teams fought over the cluster of tokens in the center. "Whisper and Drift, you are the fastest. You go for that token while the others are distracted. Crix and Shard, you stay here and make noise. Make them think we are joining the main fight." "You want us to be a distraction," Crix said. "I want you to be a very loud, very scary distraction. Can you do that?" Crix smiled, showing all his teeth. "I can do that." The plan worked perfectly. Crix and Shard charged toward the main battle, roaring challenges and drawing everyone's attention. In the chaos, Whisper and Drift slipped around the edge of the chamber, grabbed the isolated token, and disappeared back into the maze. Team 47 was one of the first teams to complete the culling. They emerged from the maze with their token, while other teams were still fighting and dying inside. Commander Thrace was waiting at the exit, her glowing eyes fixed on Maya. "The humans' team was among the first to finish," she said. "Interesting. Tell me, human, how did you guide your team through the maze so effectively?" "I watched the patterns," Maya said. "The maze reconfigures on a predictable schedule. Once I understood the pattern, I could anticipate the changes." "No one else saw this pattern." "No one else was looking for it. They were too focused on the obstacles and threats directly in front of them. They did not step back to see the bigger picture." Commander Thrace was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You are weak, slow, fragile. By every physical measure, you are the least capable student in this academy. But you see what others do not. You think what others cannot. Perhaps there is a place for you here after all." She walked away, and Maya let out a breath she had been holding since she arrived at the academy. She had survived the culling. She had proven that she was not completely useless. It was not much, but it was a start. Behind her, Crix approached. The massive Vorkath looked down at her with an expression she could not read. "You did well, human," he said. "I did not expect that." "Thank you." "Do not thank me. I still think you are going to die. But now I think perhaps you will take some time dying, and perhaps you will take some of our enemies with you." It was not exactly a ringing endorsement, but from a Vorkath, it was practically a declaration of friendship. Maya smiled. She had a long way to go. She was still the weakest student in the academy by every measurable standard. She still could not throw a proper punch or survive a direct confrontation with any of her classmates. But she had something they did not. She could see patterns. She could predict the unpredictable. She could find the paths that others missed. The Obsidian Academy was the most lethal school in the galaxy. It was designed to break people, to destroy them, to forge survivors into weapons. Maya Chen was not supposed to be here. She was never meant to get in. But she was here now. And she was going to prove that she belonged. 6 months had passed since Maya Chen survived the culling, and she was still the worst fighter in the Obsidian Academy. This had not changed. What had changed was everything else. The morning training session began like every other morning, with Sergeant Vex standing in the center of the combat arena and glaring at the assembled students with her one good eye. 93 students remained from the original 300. The Academy had a way of reducing those numbers steadily, through challenges and trials and the occasional unexplained disappearance. Today we practice tactical elimination, Sergeant Vex announced. Teams of 4 will compete in the simulation chamber. The objective is simple: eliminate the opposing team. The winning team moves on. The losing team reports for remedial training. She paused. The last team to lose will be expelled from the academy. Maya felt the familiar twist of anxiety in her stomach. She had learned to live with that feeling over the past 6 months. It never went away entirely, but she had discovered that she could function despite it, could think clearly even when her body was screaming at her to run and hide. Her team was called. Team 47 had stayed together since the culling, a decision that surprised everyone including the team members themselves. Crix the Vorkath, Whisper the Silken Assassin, Drift the gravity-manipulating Nebulan, Shard the living stone crystalline, and Maya the human pattern reader. They entered the simulation chamber, a massive arena that could be reconfigured to represent any environment. Today it had been set up as an urban combat zone, with buildings, streets, alleyways, and plenty of cover. Their opponents were already inside, a team led by a Draconith named Inferno who had earned his name by burning 3 students alive during a training exercise that got out of hand. Plan, Crix demanded, looking at Maya. This was new. 6 months ago, Crix would have charged into battle without consulting anyone, trusting his natural strength and ferocity to carry the day. Now he waited for Maya to analyze the situation, to see the patterns that others missed. Maya studied the arena through the entrance portal. She observed the placement of buildings, the sight lines between structures, the areas of shadow and light. She noted where Inferno's team had positioned themselves, the subtle clues in their body language that revealed their tactical thinking. Inferno is aggressive, she said. He will want to end this quickly. His team will push forward as soon as the match begins, trying to overwhelm us with firepower. They expect us to take defensive positions and wait for their assault. What do we do? Whisper asked. We do the unexpected. Drift, can you reduce gravity in a localized area? The Nebulan's enormous eyes blinked slowly. Yes, for approximately 30 seconds. Good, here is what we are going to do. The match began 30 seconds later. As Maya predicted, Inferno's team surged forward, spreading out to cover multiple approach vectors. They moved with practiced coordination, covering each other's blind spots, ready for any conventional defensive strategy. What they were not ready for was Team 47 attacking from above. Drift had reduced gravity in a cone above the arena, allowing Crix and Shard to launch themselves onto the rooftops with a single powerful jump. From their elevated position, they rained down attacks on Inferno's team, who were completely unprepared for a vertical assault. Whisper used the chaos to slip behind enemy lines, her silken flexibility allowing her to move through spaces that should have been impossible to navigate. Maya watched from a concealed position, calling out adjustments through their communication links. Crix, the one on your left is about to break for cover. Intercept. Whisper, hold position for 3 seconds, then move. Shard, drop down now. It was over in under 4 minutes. Inferno's team was eliminated without scoring a single hit on Team 47. Sergeant Vex observed the entire match from the control room. When Team 47 emerged victorious, she was waiting for them at the exit. Impressive tactics, she said, her eye fixed on Maya. Unconventional, effective. You have improved significantly since you arrived, human. Thank you, Sergeant. Do not thank me. Thank will get you nothing here. What will get you something is continuing to prove your worth. She paused. The Strategic Command examination is in 3 weeks. I expect Team 47 to participate. Maya's heart skipped. The Strategic Command examination was not a regular training exercise. It was a formal test that qualified students for officer positions upon graduation. Only the most capable students were invited to participate. Only the very best passed. We will be ready, Crix said, speaking for the team. Sergeant Vex nodded and walked away. Maya let out a slow breath. The Strategic Command examination. If she passed, she would be recognized as someone with leadership potential. Someone who belonged at the academy not despite being human, but because of what she brought to the table. But if she failed, she would prove that she had been a mistake after all. The weeks leading up to the examination were intense. Maya spent every spare moment studying past examinations, analyzing the patterns in how tests were constructed, identifying the qualities the examiners valued. She also worked with her team, developing their coordination, learning to anticipate each other's movements without verbal communication. They were becoming something more than a group of individuals forced together by circumstance. They were becoming a unit. One evening, Whisper found Maya in the library, surrounded by holographic displays showing tactical scenarios. "You work harder than anyone I have ever seen," Whisper said, settling into a chair across from her. "Why?" Maya considered the question. "Because I have to. I'm not naturally talented like the rest of you. I cannot rely on physical abilities or species advantages. The only way I can keep up is by working harder and thinking smarter." That is not a complete answer. Maya looked at the silken assassin. Over the past 6 months, Whisper had become something like a friend. Not a friend in the human sense, perhaps. Silken did not form emotional attachments the same way humans did, but something similar. "I want to prove that humans can contribute," Maya admitted. "Earth is a joke in galactic politics. We are considered primitive, backward, insignificant. No human has ever graduated from this academy. No human has ever held a position of real power in the galactic structure. I want to change that." "That is a heavy burden to carry." "Someone has to carry it. Why not me?" Whisper made the sound that Maya had learned to recognize as laughter. "You are strange, human, but perhaps strange is what the galaxy needs." The day of the Strategic Command examination arrived with the usual gray sky of Korath Prime and the usual smell of sulfur in the air. 12 teams had been selected to participate. Team 47 was the only one with a human member, a fact that drew considerable attention and no small amount of mockery from the other students. The examination was conducted in the Grand Tactical Chamber, a massive facility that could simulate entire planetary battles. Students were not just given tactical puzzles to solve. They were put in command of simulated forces and asked to achieve objectives under realistic conditions. Each team would face 3 scenarios of increasing difficulty. Only teams that succeeded in all 3 would pass the examination. The first scenario was a straightforward planetary assault. Team 47 was given command of a simulated invasion force and tasked with capturing a defended installation. Crix wanted to attack directly, using overwhelming force. Whisper suggested a stealth approach, infiltrating the defenses before the main assault. Maya studied the tactical display for a long moment. She saw patterns in the defenders' positioning, weaknesses in their coordination, opportunities that neither direct assault nor pure stealth would exploit. "Neither approach is optimal," she said. "The defenders expect both. They have prepared countermeasures for a frontal assault and detection systems for stealth infiltration. We need a third option." "What third option?" Crix demanded. "We make them come to us." Maya explained her plan. They would begin with a diversionary attack that looked like a failed frontal assault. The defenders would pursue, thinking they had the advantage. Meanwhile, the real assault force would circle around and attack the installation from behind while its defenders were committed elsewhere. It was risky. If the defenders did not take the bait, Team 47 would be caught with their forces divided. But Maya had studied the commander profile assigned to the simulation. She knew his patterns. He was aggressive, overconfident, exactly the type to pursue what looked like a retreating enemy. The plan worked. The simulated battle ended with the installation captured and enemy forces scattered. Team 47 moved on to the second scenario. The second scenario was a diplomatic crisis. A colony world was threatening to secede from the Galactic Council. Team 47 was tasked with resolving the situation without resorting to military action. This was not Maya's area of expertise, but she had learned something important at the academy. Recognizing what she did not know was just as valuable as knowing things. "Drift," she said. "Your species has extensive experience with multi-faction negotiations. What patterns do you see in this situation?" The Nebulan's eyes glowed briefly as he analyzed the scenario data. "The colony's grievances are legitimate. They have been exploited economically and ignored politically. But the leaders driving the secession movement are not motivated by justice. They are motivated by personal power. They are using legitimate grievances to pursue illegitimate goals." "How do we use that?" "Separate the leaders from their followers. Give the population what they actually want, fair treatment and representation. The secession movement will collapse when people realize they can get what they need without abandoning the council." Maya nodded. "That is our approach. Shard, Whisper, you handle direct negotiations with the colonial government. Keep them occupied. Drift and Crix, you work with the population, identifying moderate voices and amplifying their message. I will coordinate intelligence, making sure we understand the full picture. The second scenario took longer than the first, but they succeeded. The colony remained part of the council, its legitimate concerns addressed, its corrupt leaders exposed and removed from power. The third scenario was the hardest. Team 47 was given command of a last-ditch defense against an overwhelming enemy force. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. Their objective was not to win. It was to survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive. 16 simulation hours against a force that should have crushed them in 6. The other teams had failed this scenario. Even the best of them had barely lasted 10 hours before their forces were completely destroyed. The examiners had designed it to be nearly impossible, a test of how students performed when victory was not an option. Maya stared at the tactical display for a very long time. "We cannot hold a static defense," she said finally. "The enemy force is too large. They will eventually break through no matter how well we fortify." "Then what do you suggest?" Crix asked. "We do not try to hold ground. We make them pay for every advance. We retreat constantly, setting traps, launching counterattacks, making them bleed for every kilometer they gain. We turn this from a siege into a running battle." Whisper nodded slowly. "Keep them off balance, never let them concentrate their forces." "Exactly. They expect us to dig in and die. We refuse to give them that satisfaction." The simulated battle began. It was chaos from the first moment. Maya had divided their forces into small, mobile units that struck the enemy advance from multiple directions simultaneously, then vanished before retaliation could be organized. Every time the enemy pushed forward, they found themselves walking into ambushes, tripwires, traps that cost them time and resources. It was not heroic. It was not glorious. It was dirty, desperate, grinding warfare that gave the enemy nothing for free. Maya coordinated the entire thing from a mobile command post that never stayed in one place for more than 30 minutes. She tracked enemy movements, predicted their next advances, positioned her forces to maximize damage while minimizing exposure. Hour after hour, her simulated forces bled and died. But they made the enemy bleed worse. They forced the attackers to slow down, to be cautious, to spend resources on securing their flanks instead of pushing forward. At hour 14, the enemy commander made a mistake. He committed his reserves to a final push, convinced that the defenders were about to break. Maya had been waiting for exactly this moment. She had deliberately shown weakness on one flank, drawing the reserves to that location. When they committed, she launched a coordinated strike on the enemy's command structure, which was now exposed. The simulated battle ended at hour 17, when the enemy commander's headquarters was destroyed and his forces lost cohesion. Reinforcements arrived to find the attacking army in disarray, their advance stalled, their leadership eliminated. Team 47 had not just survived, they had won. The examination results were announced that evening. Of the 12 teams that participated, 3 had passed. Team 47 was one of them. Commander Thrace herself delivered the announcement. Her glowing eyes swept across the assembled students, lingering on Maya for a moment longer than the others. "These results will be recorded in your permanent files," she said. "The students who passed the Strategic Command examination have demonstrated exceptional tactical ability. They will be given priority consideration for officer positions upon graduation." Maya stood with her team, trying to process what had just happened. She had passed. She, a human who could not throw a punch without hurting herself, had passed one of the most demanding tactical examinations in the galaxy. Later that night, Crix approached her in the corridor outside their dormitory. "You did well today, human," he said. "We all did well. It was a team effort." The Vorkath shook his massive head. "No, the team executed well, but the strategy was yours, the vision was yours, you saw things we could not see, you thought things we could not think." He paused. "When I first met you, I thought you were a mistake, a fragile creature who did not belong here. I was wrong." "Thank you, Crix, that means a lot." "I still think you are fragile and strange, but you are also useful and perhaps brave in your own way." He turned to walk away, then stopped. "The other students are talking. They say you are going to be the first human to graduate from the academy. Some of them do not like this idea." "I know. Watch your back, Maya Chen. Not everyone will accept your success gracefully." Maya nodded. She had seen the signs already. The jealousy, the resentment, the fear that a human could compete with species that had been considered superior for millennia. There would be challenges ahead, obstacles, maybe even attempts on her life. But she had faced challenges before. She had survived obstacles that should have destroyed her. She would face whatever came next the same way she had faced everything else, by watching, analyzing, finding the patterns that others missed. The weeks following the Strategic Command examination were busy. New training modules opened up for those who had passed, advanced courses in fleet tactics, planetary strategy, and the subtle art of galactic politics. Maya threw herself into these courses with the same intensity she brought to everything else. She also started to notice something changing in how other students treated her. Not everyone, of course. There were still those who resented her presence, who refused to accept that a human could belong at the academy. But others had begun to seek her out, asking for advice on tactical problems, requesting her analysis of training scenarios. She was becoming known, not as the human who did not belong, but as the pattern reader, the one who saw things others missed. One morning, she was summoned to Commander Thrace's office. The summons came without explanation, which was not unusual at the academy. Students were expected to obey without question and adapt to whatever situation they found themselves in. Commander Thrace's office was at the top of the central tower, overlooking the entire academy campus. The view was impressive, but Maya barely noticed it. She was too focused on the commander herself, trying to read the patterns in her body language, her facial expressions, anything that might give a clue about why she had been called here. "Sit," Commander Thrace said. Maya sat. "You have been at the academy for 7 months. In that time, you have progressed from the weakest student in your class to one of the most strategically capable. Your tactical scores are in the top 5%. Your pattern recognition abilities are unmatched by any student currently enrolled." The commander paused. "You are still the worst physical combatant in the academy, of course, but we are learning that physical combat is not everything." "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me. I am not giving you a compliment. I am stating facts." She leaned forward, her glowing eyes intense. "There is a problem at the academy, Maya Chen, a problem that our traditional methods have failed to solve. I believe you may be able to help." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of problem?" "Over the past 3 months, 7 students have disappeared, not expelled, not killed in training, disappeared. Their bodies have not been found. There is no evidence of what happened to them." Commander Thrace's voice was cold, controlled, but Maya could sense something beneath the surface. Frustration, maybe, or anger. "You suspect foul play?" "I know there is foul play, but I cannot prove it. Our investigators have found nothing. Our surveillance systems have captured nothing. Whoever is responsible is very, very good at covering their tracks." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you see patterns. You notice things others do not. I want you to investigate quietly and unofficially. Find out what is happening to these students." Maya's mind was racing. This was not a training exercise. This was real danger, real stakes, real possibility of ending up like those 7 missing students. "Why me? Why not professional investigators?" "Professional investigators have already tried and failed. They approach problems through standard methods, following established procedures. Whoever is responsible knows those procedures and knows how to avoid them. You approach problems differently. You see things others miss. That may be exactly what this situation requires." Maya thought about it. She thought about the risk, the danger, the very real possibility that she could get herself killed. She also thought about 7 students who had vanished without a trace, and the families who would never know what happened to them. "I will do it," she said. Commander Thrace nodded as if she had expected no other answer. "You will report directly to me. No one else is to know about this investigation. If whoever is responsible learns that they are being investigated, they may accelerate their activities or cover their tracks more thoroughly." "I understand." "Good, now get out of my office. And Maya," Commander Thrace's voice softened slightly, "be careful. You are valuable to this academy. I would prefer that you not become the 8th missing student." Maya left the commander's office with her mind churning. 7 missing students. No evidence, no leads. It seemed impossible. But Maya had learned something important over the past 7 months. Impossible was just another word for patterns that had not been found yet. She started her investigation that night, accessing the Academy's student records to learn everything she could about the 7 missing students. Their names were Zex, a Vorkath, Shimmer, a Silken, Torch, a Draconith, two Nebulans named Void and Eclipse, a Crystalline named Granite, and a hybrid named Flux who nobody had been able to categorize. At first glance, they had nothing in common. Different species, different backgrounds, different abilities. They were in different classes, different dormitories, different social groups. Their disappearances happened at different times and in different locations around the campus. But Maya kept looking. She always kept looking. It took her 3 days to find the first pattern. All 7 students had been on a list. A very specific list. The top candidates for recruitment by the Galactic Intelligence Service upon graduation. The GIS recruited only the best of the best, the students who showed potential for covert operations, intelligence gathering, and Black Ops missions. Someone was targeting the most promising intelligence candidates. Maya dug deeper. She cross-referenced the disappearance dates with campus events, weather patterns, staff schedules, everything she could think of. Another pattern emerged. All 7 disappearances had occurred within 2 days of a particular instructor visiting the campus. An instructor named Professor Venn, who taught advanced infiltration techniques. Maya did not believe in coincidences. She started watching Professor Venn, carefully, discreetly, using all the tradecraft she had learned at the academy. He was a Silken, like Whisper, with the same fluid grace and the same unsettling way of moving through spaces that should not accommodate him. But unlike Whisper, there was something wrong about him, something Maya could not quite identify but could definitely sense. She watched him for 2 weeks. She noted his patterns, his habits, his routines. He seemed like a normal instructor teaching his classes, attending staff meetings, following all the expected protocols. But there were small inconsistencies. Times when he was supposed to be in one place, but his access card logged him somewhere else. Messages sent from his account that did not match his communication patterns. Subtle things that nobody would notice unless they were specifically looking for them. Maya was specifically looking for them. The breakthrough came on a night when Professor Venn was supposed to be attending a faculty symposium in the main hall. Maya saw him there herself, chatting with other instructors, drinking from a glass of the academy's terrible synthetic wine. But when she checked the access logs afterward, his card had been used to enter a restricted maintenance tunnel on the other side of campus at the exact same time. There were 2 of him. The next day, Maya requested a meeting with Whisper. She explained what she had found, keeping the details vague but conveying the essential point. Someone was using impersonation or cloning to move around the campus undetected. Whisper listened in silence. When Maya finished, the Silken assassin was quiet for a long moment. "This is dangerous information," Whisper said finally. "If you are right, you have identified someone with resources and capabilities far beyond a normal instructor. Someone connected to powers that could make you disappear as easily as those 7 students." "I know. And you are going to pursue this anyway." "I have to. 7 people are missing, maybe dead. If I do nothing, there could be more." Whisper made the sound that was almost a laugh. "You humans. You are supposed to be the weak ones, the fragile ones, the ones who look out only for yourselves. And yet here you are, risking your life for people you never even knew. Is that strange?" "Yes, but perhaps strange is not bad." Whisper uncoiled from her seated position. "I will help you. We Silken know things about impersonation that other species do not. If there is a fake Venn moving around this campus, I may be able to identify them." "Thank you, Whisper." "Do not thank me yet. This may get us both killed." They spent the next week developing a plan. Maya continued her surveillance, mapping Professor Venn's movements and identifying the patterns of inconsistency. Whisper worked her own sources, tapping into the Silken network of whispers and secrets that existed beneath the Academy's official structure. What they found was worse than Maya had expected. Professor Venn was not a clone or an impersonator. Professor Venn was a member of a shadow organization called the Void Collective, a group that had been systematically infiltrating the major power structures of the galaxy for decades. They recruited talented individuals and either converted them to their cause or eliminated them as potential threats. The 7 missing students had all refused to join. They had been disposed of. Maya realized she was dealing with something much bigger than a few missing students. The Void Collective had agents throughout the Academy, throughout the Galactic Intelligence Service, throughout the Council itself. They were a cancer growing in the heart of galactic civilization. She also realized that she was in way over her head. "We need to tell Commander Thrace," Maya said. "This is too big for us to handle alone." Are you certain the commander is not part of the collective? Whisper asked. Maya had considered this. She had analyzed Commander Thrace's patterns, her decisions, her history. No, the commander is clean. If she were part of the collective, she would not have asked me to investigate in the first place. She would have just let the disappearances continue. Then we tell her, but we need proof. Accusations without evidence will be dismissed, or worse, will alert the collective that they have been discovered. They needed to catch Professor Venn in the act, and Maya had an idea how to do it. The plan was simple in concept and terrifying in execution. Maya would make herself a target. She would let it be known that she was on the GIS recruitment list, that she was exactly the kind of high-potential student the collective was targeting. Then she would wait for them to make their move. Whisper objected strongly. This is suicide. They will not try to recruit you. You are human. They will simply kill you. Maybe, or maybe they will be curious. A human who has risen to the top of the academy, who has demonstrated abilities they have never seen before. They might want to understand what makes me tick before they eliminate me. And if they decide to just eliminate you immediately, then at least we will have evidence of their methods. You will be watching. You will see how they operate. That information can be used to stop them. Whisper was silent for a long moment. You are braver than I gave you credit for, Maya Chen. I am terrified, but sometimes you have to be terrified and act anyway. The trap was set. Maya made sure to excel visibly in her next few training exercises, drawing attention to herself, making herself look like exactly the kind of asset the collective would want. She also started asking questions about the GIS, expressing interest in intelligence work, making herself look like a prime recruitment target. 3 days later, she received a message. An anonymous message inviting her to a private meeting in one of the Academy's abandoned storage facilities. The message promised answers to questions she had been asking, knowledge that would help her achieve her goals. It was obviously a trap. Maya went anyway. The storage facility was dark and cold. Maya walked through the entrance and felt the door seal behind her. She was not alone. Maya Chen, a voice said from the shadows. It sounded like Professor Venn, but also not quite like him. You have been very busy, have you not? Asking questions, watching, analyzing. I like to understand things. Indeed, that is what makes you interesting. A human with a gift for patterns, for seeing what others miss. The collective has been watching you since you arrived at the academy. You are unique. A figure stepped out of the darkness. It looked like Professor Venn, but the movements were wrong, the proportions subtly off. This was not the real Venn. This was something else wearing his face. What are you? Maya asked. I am an agent of the Void Collective. We have eyes and ears throughout the galaxy, Maya Chen. We see the corruption at the heart of the current order, the stagnation and decay that is leading civilization toward collapse. We seek to rebuild, to create something better, and we want you to be part of that future. What happened to the 7 students who disappeared? The false Venn smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. They were offered the same opportunity I am offering you now. Some accepted, some refused. Those who refused were removed from the equation. Killed, you mean? Their biological processes were terminated, yes, but their contributions to the collective live on. Nothing is truly lost. Maya felt sick, but she kept her voice steady. And if I refuse your offer, then you will join them. A waste, really. Your abilities could serve the collective well, but we cannot allow potential threats to our plans to continue existing. This was the moment. Maya had gotten the confession she needed. Now she just had to survive long enough for it to matter. Whisper, she said, did you get all that? The false Venn's eyes widened. For half a second, confusion broke through the mask of confidence. Then Whisper descended from the ceiling, her silken body coiled like a spring, and struck. What followed was brief and violent. The false Venn was skilled, but Whisper was better. More importantly, Whisper had the advantage of surprise. Within 30 seconds, the collective agent was subdued, restrained, and very much not dead. Evidence secured, Whisper said. Now we need to get this to Commander Thrace before the collective realizes their agent has failed. They moved fast. Maya had prepared for this, had planned extraction routes and contingencies. Within 10 minutes, they were in Commander Thrace's office, with the subdued agent and a full recording of the conversation. Commander Thrace listened to everything. When they finished, her face was unreadable. The Void Collective, she said. I have heard rumors, nothing concrete, nothing I could act on. She looked at the subdued agent who was still wearing Professor Ven's face. This changes things. What happens now? Maya asked. Now we begin the real work, identifying collective agents within the Academy, tracing their network, and eventually dismantling them entirely. Commander Thrace looked at Maya. You have done exceptionally well, Maya Chen. You saw patterns no one else could see. You took risks that most would consider suicidal, and you may have just saved the Academy from being hollowed out from within. I had help. Whisper was essential. Indeed, you both will be recognized for your contributions, but there will be time for that later. Right now, I need you to continue your work. There are more collective agents in this academy. I need you to find them. Maya nodded. She was exhausted, terrified, and more alive than she had ever felt. 7 months ago, she had been a junior data analyst who stared at numbers all day. Now she was hunting galaxy-spanning conspiracies in the most lethal academy in known space. Life was strange, but sometimes strange was exactly what was needed. The graduation ceremony of the Obsidian Academy was held once every 3 years, and it was the most important event on the galactic calendar. Representatives from every major faction attended. Council members, military commanders, intelligence directors, and corporate executives all gathered to observe the newest crop of elite graduates. This year's ceremony was special. For the first time in the Academy's 1,000-year history, a human was graduating. Maya Chen stood in the preparation chamber, adjusting the ceremonial uniform that felt strange on her body. The uniform was designed for species with different proportions, different physiology, different everything. She had requested modifications to make it fit properly, but it still felt like wearing someone else's clothes. Which, in a sense, she was. She was wearing the clothes of a graduate of the Obsidian Academy, and part of her still could not believe she had earned the right to do so. 2.5 years. That was how long she had been at the Academy. 2.5 years of training, testing, fighting, and learning. 2.5 years of being the weakest physical student while slowly, gradually, becoming one of the most respected tactical minds in the institution's history. She had helped dismantle the Void Collective's infiltration network, identifying 17 agents embedded throughout the Academy staff and student body. She had redesigned the Academy's tactical curriculum to incorporate pattern analysis training, a new discipline that was now considered essential for all graduates. She had led Team 47 to victory in the annual War Games, the first time a team led by a human had ever placed in the top 3, let alone won. And she had done it all while never throwing a punch that actually hurt anyone. Whisper appeared in the doorway, moving with her characteristic fluid grace. She was also graduating today, one of 37 students from their original intake of 300 who had made it to the end. You look uncomfortable, Whisper observed. I am uncomfortable. This uniform was not designed for humans. Nothing at this academy was designed for humans. You made it work anyway. Whisper tilted her head, studying Maya with those pale, unreadable eyes. Are you ready for what comes after? Maya had thought about that question a lot lately. Graduation meant entering the real world, taking on real responsibilities, making decisions that would affect real lives. It was terrifying. I think so, she said, as ready as I can be. Good, because there are people out there who will try to undo everything you have accomplished. They will say you did not earn your place, that you were given special treatment, that humans do not belong in positions of power. I know. They are wrong. You earned everything, more than earned it, but they will not see that. They will see only what they want to see. I know that too, but I cannot control what other people think. I can only control what I do. Whisper made the almost laughter sound that Maya had come to know well over the past 2 years. You humans, so simple and yet so profound. The ceremony began an hour later. The graduation arena was massive, designed to accommodate thousands of spectators from dozens of different species. Maya walked in with the other graduates, acutely aware of the thousands of eyes watching her, analyzing her, judging her. She did not let herself look nervous. She had learned that lesson early at the academy. Never show weakness, never give them something to exploit. Commander Thrace presided over the ceremony. She called each graduate by name, reciting their accomplishments, presenting them with the ceremonial blade that marked them as Academy alumni. When she reached Maya's name, the arena fell silent. Maya Chen, Human Earth, Commander Thrace announced. First of her species to attend the Obsidian Academy, first to survive the culling, first to pass the Strategic Command examination, first to graduate. She paused, letting the words sink in. Maya Chen was not expected to survive her first week at this academy. She proved every expectation wrong. Maya stepped forward to receive her blade. Commander Thrace's glowing eyes met hers, and there was something in them that Maya had never seen before. Respect, perhaps, or something deeper. "You have changed this academy, Maya Chen," Commander Thrace said, her voice low enough that only Maya could hear. "You have shown us that strength comes in many forms and that the greatest weapon is not always the sharpest blade. Remember that as you go forward. The galaxy needs what you have to offer." "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me. Go out there and make me proud I did not throw you out in the first week." Maya took her blade and returned to her place among the graduates. Around her, the other students stood at attention, their faces unreadable. But she could sense something in the air that had not been there before. Acceptance, maybe. Acknowledgement that she had earned her place among them. The ceremony continued, but Maya's mind was already racing ahead. What came next? What would she do with the skills and knowledge she had acquired? What mark would she leave on the galaxy? She did not have to wait long to find out. The reception after the ceremony was attended by representatives from every major power in the galaxy. Military commanders seeking tactical advisors. Intelligence agencies looking for analysts. Corporate entities wanting security consultants. They moved through the crowd like predators, identifying promising graduates and making offers. Maya was approached by 17 different representatives in the first hour alone. She listened politely to each one, filed away the information for later analysis, and made no commitments. She knew what she was looking for, and none of these offers matched it. Then she saw him, a human in formal diplomatic attire, standing alone near the edge of the reception hall. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and kind eyes that seemed out of place in this gathering of predators. Maya made her way toward him. "You are from Earth." "Ambassador David Chen, Diplomatic Corps," he smiled. "No relation despite the name, though I have been following your career with great interest, Maya Chen. You are quite famous back home." "I did not know that." "Oh yes, the girl who was never supposed to get in. The first human to graduate from the Obsidian Academy. You are a symbol, whether you wanted to be one or not. A symbol of what humans can achieve when given the opportunity." Maya was not sure how she felt about being a symbol. Symbols were static things, images frozen in time. She preferred to be a person who grew and changed and learned. "What can I do for you, Ambassador?" "It is more what you can do for Earth. We are at a crossroads, Maya. Humanity has been a minor player in galactic affairs for too long. We are not taken seriously. We have no seat at the important tables. But that is changing. Earth is growing, developing, becoming something more than a backwater planet. We need people who can help us navigate that growth." "You are offering me a job." "I am offering you a purpose. Earth needs someone who understands how the galaxy really works, someone who can see patterns and anticipate threats, someone who has earned respect through deeds rather than rhetoric. I believe you are that person." Maya thought about it. She had received offers from more powerful factions, positions that would give her more resources and more immediate influence. But none of them had felt right. None of them had connected to something deeper inside her. Earth was her home. Earth was where she came from. Earth was the reason she had pushed herself to excel, to prove that humans could compete with anyone. How could she abandon that now when her people needed her most? "What exactly would I be doing?" "Chief Strategic Advisor to the Diplomatic Corps. You would analyze threats, identify opportunities, and help us make decisions that will shape humanity's future. It is not glamorous work. You will not be leading armies or executing covert operations, but you will be making a difference where it matters most." Maya looked around the reception hall. She saw the predators circling, the power plays unfolding, the complex dance of galactic politics that most humans never even knew existed. She saw the challenges ahead, the obstacles that would have to be overcome, the battles that would have to be fought. She also saw opportunities, patterns that others missed, paths that could lead humanity to a better future. "I will do it," she said. Ambassador Chen's smile widened. "I was hoping you would say that." The transition from academy graduate to diplomatic advisor was faster than Maya expected. Within a week, she was on a transport heading back to Earth, her belongings packed in a single case and her head full of plans. Earth looked different from orbit than she remembered. Smaller, somehow, more fragile, a blue marble floating in the infinite darkness of space. It was hard to believe that this tiny world had produced a species that was now reaching for the stars. The diplomatic corps headquarters was located in New Geneva, the same city where Maya had worked as a data analyst 3 years ago. She walked through familiar streets that felt strange now, seeing everything through new eyes. The buildings seemed smaller. The people seemed less significant. She had to remind herself that these were her people, that she had come back to help them, not to look down on them. Her office was on the top floor of the diplomatic building, with windows overlooking the entire city. It was bigger than her entire apartment had been before the academy. It felt strange to have so much space. The first year was hard. Not physically hard, like the academy had been, but mentally and emotionally exhausting. Maya spent long hours analyzing intelligence reports, studying the movements of galactic powers, trying to identify threats before they materialized. She attended endless meetings where she had to explain complex situations to people who did not want to hear complexity. She made recommendations that were ignored, gave warnings that were dismissed, fought battles that nobody seemed to understand. But slowly, gradually, things began to change. Her first major success came 6 months into the job. She identified a pattern in trade negotiations that suggested several alien factions were coordinating to isolate Earth economically. Her analysis was dismissed at first, but she kept pushing, kept presenting evidence, kept making her case until finally someone listened. Earth renegotiated its trade agreements before the trap could close. What would have been an economic catastrophe became a minor inconvenience. After that, people started taking her more seriously. Her warnings were given more weight. Her recommendations were actually implemented. She was still the strange human who saw patterns, but now that strangeness was an asset rather than a liability. The second major success came a year later. The Void Collective, the organization she had helped expose at the academy, had not been completely destroyed. Elements of it remained, scattered and hidden, still working toward their goals. Maya tracked their movements, analyzed their patterns, and eventually identified their next target, a peace conference that would bring together representatives from a dozen major factions. She assembled a team to stop them. Not just any team, her old team from the academy, Crix, Whisper, Drift, and Shard. They came when she called, crossing the galaxy to help their former teammate prevent a catastrophe. The operation was successful. The attack was stopped. The peace conference went ahead as planned, resulting in agreements that would reduce tensions throughout the galaxy for years to come. And Maya Chen, the girl who was never supposed to get in, became known throughout the diplomatic community as someone whose insights could change the course of history. 3 years after graduation, Maya received an invitation she never expected. The Galactic Council was creating a new position, Strategic Advisor for Multi-Species Affairs. The role would involve coordinating intelligence and strategy across all member species, identifying threats to galactic stability, and recommending responses. It was one of the most important positions in the galaxy. They wanted Maya for the job. The appointment was controversial. Plenty of people objected to a human holding such a significant position. There were protests on several worlds, angry editorials in the galactic press, even threats against Maya personally. Some said she was too young, too inexperienced, too human to be trusted with such responsibility. Maya listened to all of it. She analyzed the objections, identified the patterns in the criticism, understood where it came from and why. Then she accepted the job anyway. Because she understood something that her critics did not. The galaxy was changing. Old power structures were shifting. New threats were emerging. The approaches that had worked for centuries were becoming obsolete. The galaxy needed fresh perspectives, different ways of thinking, people who could see patterns that traditional leaders missed. The galaxy needed what humans had to offer. Maya's first year on the council was a whirlwind of activity. She reorganized the intelligence-sharing protocols between species, creating new systems that caught threats that had previously slipped through the cracks. She developed training programs based on pattern analysis that helped analysts across the galaxy become more effective. She built bridges between factions that had been enemies for generations, finding common ground where others saw only conflict. She was not always successful. She made mistakes. Some of her recommendations backfired. Some of her predictions were wrong. She learned from each failure, adjusted her approach, kept moving forward. What she never did was give up. What she never did was accept that she did not belong. 5 years after taking the council position, Maya Chen stood before the Galactic Assembly to give the most important speech of her career. Representatives from every known civilization filled the massive chamber, thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all waiting to hear what a human had to say. When I arrived at the Obsidian Academy 7 years ago, she began, I was told that I did not belong. I was too weak, too slow, too human. Every expectation was that I would fail, that I would be destroyed by challenges I was never meant to face. She paused, looking out at the assembly. Those expectations were wrong, not because I was stronger than anyone thought, but because strength is not what they assumed it to be. I survived the academy not through physical power, but through observation and analysis. I succeeded not by fighting harder, but by thinking differently. She gestured at the assembly around her. Look at this chamber, hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, millions of years of combined history. Each of you brings something unique to the table. Each of you sees the universe in ways that others cannot. That diversity is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. Maya had practiced this speech 100 times, but she set aside her notes now, speaking from the heart. The threats we face today are not like the threats of the past. They are subtle, complex, constantly evolving. We cannot defeat them with the methods that worked 1,000 years ago. We need new approaches, new perspectives, new ways of seeing the patterns in the chaos. Humanity was considered insignificant for most of galactic history. We were too young, too primitive, too different. But perhaps different is exactly what is needed. Perhaps the fresh eyes of a new species can see things that older civilizations have learned to ignore. She thought about her journey, the basement office where she had discovered the attack pattern, the transport ship descending toward Korath Prime, the culling, the strategic command examination, the investigation into the Void Collective. Every challenge she had faced, every obstacle she had overcome, every moment when she had been certain she would fail but kept going anyway. I am not standing here today because I was the strongest or the fastest or the most naturally talented. I am standing here because I refused to accept the limitations others placed on me. I am standing here because I saw patterns that others missed and had the courage to act on what I saw. That is what I ask of this assembly today. Look beyond your assumptions. See the patterns that are hiding in plain sight. Have the courage to act on what you discover, even when it contradicts everything you thought you knew. She paused, feeling the weight of the moment. The galaxy is changing. We can fight that change, cling to old ways that no longer serve us, and watch as new threats destroy everything we have built. Or we can embrace the change, learn from each other, and build something better than any of us could build alone. I know which choice I prefer. The question is whether you will make the same choice. Maya finished her speech and waited. The chamber was silent for a long moment. She could feel thousands of eyes analyzing her, judging her, trying to decide what to make of this human who dared to lecture the assembled powers of the galaxy. Then slowly, the applause began. It started in one section of the chamber and spread, growing louder and louder until the entire assembly was on its feet. Maya stood there receiving the applause, feeling emotions she could not quite identify. Pride, certainly, satisfaction, maybe even hope. But mostly she felt grateful. Grateful for the opportunities she had been given, for the teachers who had challenged her, for the teammates who had believed in her, for everyone who had helped her become who she was. She had started as a junior data analyst who stared at numbers on a screen. She had become the strategic advisor to the Galactic Council, one of the most influential positions in known space. And she had done it all by being exactly what she was, a human who saw patterns. After the assembly, Maya walked through the council gardens, enjoying a rare moment of solitude. The gardens were beautiful, filled with plants from 100 different worlds, but Maya barely noticed them. Her mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the challenges still to come, the problems still to solve, the patterns still to find. She was interrupted by a familiar voice. "You have come a long way, Maya Chen." She turned to find Commander Thrace standing among the alien flowers, her armored body somehow fitting perfectly into the peaceful setting. The years had not changed her much. The glowing eyes were still intense, the posture still commanding, the presence still overwhelming. "Commander, I did not know you were at the assembly. I was invited to observe. The council wanted my assessment of your speech." Commander Thrace's eyes studied her with the same analytical intensity Maya remembered from the academy. "My assessment is that you have exceeded every expectation I had for you, which is remarkable because my expectations were already high." "Thank you, that means a lot coming from you." "Do not thank me, I merely provided the opportunity, you did the work." Commander Thrace paused. "I have been thinking about what you said in your speech, about seeing patterns that others miss, about the value of different perspectives. I believe you are correct. The galaxy needs to change. The old ways are not working anymore. No, they are not. Commander Thrace looked out at the garden, at the diverse collection of life from across the galaxy. When you first arrived at the Academy, I thought you were a mistake, a fragile human who did not belong among warriors. I was wrong. You belonged more than most. Maya was silent for a moment. Can I ask you something, Commander? You may ask, I may not answer. Why did you select me? All those years ago when you chose me for the Academy. I was nobody. I had no connections, no special abilities, nothing that should have caught your attention. Commander Thrace was quiet for a long moment. You saw a pattern that no one else saw. You found a way to warn the Council when all conventional methods should have failed. And then you hacked through security systems that the best experts in the galaxy had declared unhackable. She turned to face Maya directly. That required a unique mind, a mind that could see what others could not. The Academy needed that kind of mind. The galaxy needed it. But you could not have known I would survive. You could not have known I would succeed. No, I could not, but I believed you would. Sometimes believing is enough. Maya thought about that. Believing was enough. It was such a simple concept, and yet so profound. How many times had she survived the Academy through pure stubborn belief that she could keep going? How many challenges had she overcome simply by refusing to accept that they were impossible? Thank you, Commander, for believing in me when no one else did. Thank you, Maya Chen, for proving me right. They stood together in the garden for a while longer, two very different beings who had found common ground against all odds. Then Commander Thrace nodded once and walked away, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts. The sun was setting over the council headquarters, painting the sky in colors that had no names in any language Maya knew. She watched the light fade, thinking about everything that had led to this moment, everything that lay ahead. She was the girl who was never meant to get in, the human who did not belong at the galaxy's most lethal school, the analyst who could not throw a punch, and she had become one of the most influential people in known space. Not through strength, not through violence, not through any of the traditional measures of power, but through something else entirely, through observation and analysis, through patience and persistence, through the ability to see patterns that others missed and the courage to act on what she saw. That was what humans brought to the galaxy, not physical superiority, not technological dominance, but a different way of seeing, a different way of thinking, a different way of approaching problems. Maya Chen had proven that different could be better, and she was just getting started. The next morning, she returned to her office and began working on the next challenge. There was always another challenge, another problem to solve, another pattern to find. But that was okay. That was what she was good at. That was what she loved. She was Maya Chen, the pattern reader, and she had work to do. 10 years later, they built a statue of her outside the Obsidian Academy, not because she had been the strongest student, or the fastest, or the most lethal, but because she had changed what the Academy stood for. She had shown that excellence came in many forms, and that the greatest warriors were not always the ones who could fight the hardest. The statue showed her standing with her hand raised, pointing toward the stars. The plaque at the base read, Maya Chen, first human graduate who saw what others could not. Students passing by would sometimes stop to read the plaque, to learn the story of the girl who was never supposed to get in. Some of them were human, following the path she had opened. Some of them were other species, inspired by her example. All of them learned the same lesson. Strength comes in many forms. Different is not less. And sometimes the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is simply the ability to see what everyone else misses. Maya herself rarely thought about the statue. She was too busy working, analyzing, finding patterns, solving problems. She had helped negotiate 17 major treaties, prevented 4 galactic crises, and trained a new generation of strategic analysts who were carrying her methods to every corner of known space. She had gone from nobody to legend, from data analyst to council advisor, from the weakest student at the academy to one of the most respected minds in the galaxy. And she had done it all by being exactly what she was, a human, a pattern reader, someone who refused to accept that she did not belong. The girl who was never meant to get in had become the best, not despite being human, but because of it, because humans brought something to the galaxy that no other species could match, a perspective, a way of seeing, a determination to keep going no matter what. That was the real lesson of Maya Chen's story, not that she was special, though she was. Not that she was lucky, though perhaps she was that too, but that the greatest achievements often come from the most unexpected places, that the people who change the world are often the ones who were never supposed to be there in the first place. Maya had changed the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the basement of the New Geneva Space Authority, a new junior data analyst was staring at numbers on a screen, noticing patterns that did not quite fit, wondering if they should say something. The story was never really over. It was always just beginning again.